The second school leader that I interviewed is a principal at a charter school.
I'm ready.
Okay. The first question is, please tell me what school was like for you as a child.
Oh, school for me as a child was, as a typical little boy, I did not enjoy sitting there and not being able to run around. I couldn't wait to get home. But I was quiet. I didn't dislike school. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't difficult, and I had to quickly learn that I had to put in some extra effort if I wanted to succeed. Luckily, I think I was a kid that had some of that extra internal motivation, and so I was able to do that myself, but a lot of kids don't have that extra drive to put in some of that extra work. So I would say overall I had a great educational experience. I went to both public and a private school for a while in elementary and high school. Actually succeeded and had better grades at the private schools. I think I had some smaller class sizes, and that helped me a lot. So I'd say that was my overall experience.
Okay. Was it any different when you were in high school, or was it like the same?
Yeah, I was very sports driven, and so I think academics took a back seat for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had some of those subjects that came really easy to me: science, social studies, English. Struggled with math quite a bit. Really had to work hard, get some extra tutoring in math, and learned to balance that athletic side with the education side. I was always shy and quiet. And I had a lot of teachers that pushed me to raise my hand, talk, share what I knew, and I never wanted to.
Yeah.
It kind of continued through high school, but I'd say I started to find my groove about my sophomore year, and yeah, I had a really good high school experience.
Would you have changed anything if you could have?
Would I have changed anything? I think I probably, like looking back, of course, you have the hindsight now, but you notice that you notice who your quality teachers are and who your teachers that maybe didn't care as much or didn't try and just thought it was a job. And it's very easy for me to see now that part of the reason I struggled in math is because I had some pretty poor math teachers, in my opinion. So I think it's, if I could have changed anything, I wish that every teacher would have the that drive and desire to be there. It's a very difficult job, but when you look back on it, it's pretty easy to see like which of your teachers in high school, cared a lot and put in that extra effort and helped their students succeed, and which ones didn't.
Yeah. Okay, well, the next question is, who was your champion while you're at school?
Who was my champion? Let's see. I would say my English teacher in high school. She realized pretty quick that I was a good writer and could put words together, and so she really helped me to love that subject and encouraged me with how that just applies across all subjects. So I think she was the one that championed me and gave me some of that extra motivation to do well when I struggled.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, how much do you know about how schools are funded?
In my position, I know more than I care to know. I think I know quite a bit, and I have the perspective of the public school as well as the community school and the differences in equity between the two and how they're funded. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, school funding is always going to be politically driven and driven by legislative budgets. Mm-hmm. So right now we're in a time where school funding is a hot mess, and it's difficult because there's a lot of high need schools that need more funding, and I don't know that there'll ever be enough for schools to be fully helping their students as much as they could. But it is, yeah, I would say I know just about everything down to the funding formula and about how much every school district in Ohio gets per student.
How did you learn all that?
Yeah, that's something that they don't really share a lot with you about in education, at least when I was going through college for it, my master's program. That is more of as you get higher up into education, you know, the principal, the assistant principal, assistant superintendent roles, it's living with it on a daily basis and really sitting down with your school treasurer and developing a school budget. And then, you know, in my case, working for a public charter school, we do a lot of advocating and a lot of lobbying to make funding equitable in Ohio for schools, because our school is no different than a public school and should get the same amount of funding. And so I would say a lot of my knowledge is just from attending seminars about it, sitting through budget meetings, diving into, you know, every school's forecast and budget is public, and so you can go through and look and see where those dollars flow and where they go. So a lot of that is just the experience side of where I learned it.
Got it. Is there anything about funding that you don't know that you would like to know? I think I would probably like to know some more on the legislative side, since that's where it starts. You know, like it's all about the governor and the legislation developing the funding model, and some of that doesn't always make sense. You look at it and you're like, really? That's how complicated it has to be. And so I think, you know, that origination of it is probably where I'd like to know some more information about it. Okay. The next question is, how involved are families in helping decide what students should learn?
If I'm looking at it as a education-wide, I think it really varies school district to school district. There are some schools that put a high priority on parent and family input, and then there's other schools that say this is the curriculum, this is the standards, this is what we're going to do, and that's all there is to it. I think that parents and families are instrumental in education, and while they can't always be the decision maker, because we do have standards and guidelines that we have to follow with states and preparing for state tests, we'd be remiss if we didn't share with them what our expectations are, value their input, and allow them to be part of that planning and decision-making process when possible. You know, I think it's important to have parent-family forums explaining, you know, if curriculum changes are coming, why they're coming, and allowing parents to have feedback before those decisions are made. At the same time, when you're in leadership, you also have to, you know, somebody has to be the decision maker, and so you can't have 1,000 people giving input and trying to have a decision, because everybody's going to have a different view on it. So I would say that, you know, it's very school specific on that, with how much that's valued in that decision-making process.
Now, along the same lines, how involved would you say students are in deciding this?
I would give a similar answer to that, except that I think they probably get less of a voice, and they probably I would say the reason they get less of a voice is because sometimes they don't fully understand the importance of it, depending on the age level. And then I think, you know, there is still that
in education, there's still that thought that, I'm the teacher, I'm the adult, and you're the student, and this is how it is, and this is what you're going to do. But then we turn around as educators and we say, we want you to take ownership of your education, but we don't want to give you any say in it. So, we talk both sides of our mouth on that, and I think we do need to value the students' input. It doesn't mean it's always going to be right, but if we want them to take full ownership of their education, we need to start allowing them to have more say in some of those items.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that the community members, businesses, and the community organizations have any say?
More so lately, and I would say that specifically about Ohio because, we've been making a shift here in the past couple of years to put more emphasis on that career. Everything doesn't have to be college. It can be career oriented as well, and, job oriented and preparing our students for those soft skills and being contributing members of society and having high quality jobs. And so I think that we've tried and started to in education, pulling in those companies, those businesses, those community partnerships to say, you're the ones that are going to be hiring these kids and employing them for the rest of their lives. What do you think they need? And so I would say that historically that hasn't been the case, but recently there's been a shift with that, and we've been starting to get a lot more input from those businesses and organizations.
Yeah. How involved would you say the teachers are in deciding what students learn?
I would say they are extremely involved at my school, and as a whole, I would say most schools involve their teachers greatly in that decision making. You're always going to have your standards and you're always going to have curriculum, but teachers have to be the experts with filling in the gaps and making those in the moment decisions as to, yes, this is the standard, this is what a student needs to learn, but they are not there yet, or they are far exceeding that. And so then it's their job to be able to supplement, to provide some extra on top of if they need some advanced learning. And so I think that smart schools and smart leaders, they give a lot of leeway to those teachers when it comes to that side, but you still have to maintain some control from a general curriculum perspective.
Mm-hmm. Would you have any examples of this involvement, the students, the parents, the teachers, the community, specific examples?
Yeah, I think, it's, for us, I can give some specific ones. We have family student forums, multiple times a year where we talk about upcoming potential changes and gather feedback about that. We, if we're going to add a new career technical education pathway program, we do a lot of surveying and talking to the students to see where that interest is, what they'd like to see, what are those high needs jobs areas. We just added an agriculture pathway, and that was because we have a lot of students in Southern Ohio that have a high interest in that, and that came straight from surveying and talking to our students about what they'd like to see. If you want to have the buy-in and you want to have successful programs, not just academically, you have to utilize your parents and students. And so I think good schools and good districts will provide those opportunities in multiple ways, whether it's a face-to-face forum to have conversations, whether it's a survey, or whether it's having, subgroups, even utilizing a student council group or representation from the staff to give some feedback regarding those things.
Yeah. To what extent has school changed for students?
schools become more than just, academic education. And even with the pandemic in the last couple of years, with mental health, you've seen priorities and money put on those barriers that students and families have towards education that impact academics. I just had a meeting today. We have the highest homeless population at my school that we've ever had since I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
We're over 200 homeless students in the state of Ohio attending my school. That is, of course they're not going to be able to focus on their academics when sometimes they're concerned about where they're going to live. They're displaced. They are hungry. They don't know where that next meal is coming from. And so I think schools have become more and more responsible for those things and helping to remove those barriers. That's where those community partnerships come in. So that you can focus on academics and so they can work towards graduation, some of those career aspects. So I would say that is the biggest change in education is it's no longer one track, go to school, get your degree, expectation is you'll go to college. It's now we'll do as much as we can for the wraparound services to help you in education, and then there's multiple avenues after school, whether that is college, career, going into the workforce, going into the military, and looking at not just that one track aspect.
Yeah. The next question is, tell me about your ideal school.
My ideal school would be very individually tailored, and by that I mean you would have a low enough student-to-teacher ratio and staff-to-teacher ratio that you can really dig and know your students and spend that time to give them that individual instruction and services that they need. I think, we tend to group students in education and say, these are our high achievers. These are our students that are in the middle that'll do fine and don't need a lot of support. These are our students that are struggling in credit recovery and have every concern and at-risk factor possible. And then we have our students with, disabilities with IEPs. And so we're always grouping and we're always trying to serve those students in groups. But kids and students are unique and individual, and everybody's going to have a different story when it comes to what they need for education, and how I learn math is different from how you are probably going to comprehend math, and my attention span is different than somebody else's attention span. And so I think the only way that you can I would truly love to see a school function is to have enough staff and enough lower ratios that you could really focus in on that individual student. And honestly, a lot of I think almost every educator wants to educate that way, and probably every school wants to function that way, but it's also not realistic when funding is an issue and, you have budgetary and building and, issues that are with kids coming to school and things that are outside. So, yeah, it's definitely a dream, but I would say that is kind of my ideal schooling situation.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, what are the needs of your school community?
The needs of my school community are definitely just the continued partnerships. Specifically, I have a very unique school community in that we have students all across the state of Ohio, and teachers all across the state of Ohio. So my school community is the entire state of Ohio, and it's very hard to have partnerships and know every corner of the state and what is available for students in that area outside of academics. And so I would say the biggest need is for us as a school community to continue to find those partnerships that work no matter where you're at, logistically and living.
Yeah. How would you say that schools meet those needs?
I would say schools meet the needs of the community, usually because they mirror the community that they're in. I think if you naturally have a school that's in a farming community with a high degree of, a high number of families that are into agriculture, then your school tends to put money and resources and stuff into that agriculture education. And on the opposite end, if you are in a district that is considered a high performing district with 99% of your graduates going on to college, then you put a high emphasis on AP courses and honors courses and dual credit, and preparing that way. And then if you're a school like mine that has every single population, you try to spread it around, and you have to put a lot of resources into a lot of different places. And so I think schools naturally just conform and mirror the type of community that they're in, and that's kind of how they meet those needs.
Yeah. How would you say that schools know they are successful in meeting needs?
I think you have to do schools tend to track a lot of data, and it tends to be a lot of academic data, but that's only one piece of the puzzle. And I think that schools say if they are having high performing test scores and students going on to college and high graduation rates, that they're successful, which part of that is very true. That's how academics in schools have traditionally been measured. But I think that we're going to see a little bit of a shift where tracking students after they're done with school, I think sometimes you won't know if you are fully successful as a school until 4 or 5, 6 years after that student graduates. Did they go on and have a successful career? Where are they at? Are they, did they go back into education? Do they have a high performing job? Are they able to provide for their family and be successfully contributing? So I think we're going to see a lot of change to that tracking after high school, and some of those data points that will in turn help schools see if they truly are successful or not.
The next question is, how would you define success in school?
I define success in school as being able to meet the needs of the students where they're at, being able to remove those barriers, and being able to help them reach one of those main goals, which is graduation, college, career, job placement, military. And I think that when I could see a student come into our school that had some concerns other places, and it's kind of you can see everything by their transcript, by their grades, by how many schools they've been to, that this is clearly one of their last chances. And then you can get them to graduation, help them start to recover credits, find something that they love to do, an interest that piques something for career aspirations. When you can do that, and then they end up in that field, that makes me know that helps me know that we're doing what we're supposed to and that we're being successful. We actually have had our first, I think we're up to 6 teachers and staff members now that are former graduates of our school. And so, when you start having those students that graduated from you come back to your school and be assistant principals and teachers and school counselors because of what that school did for them, then I think that's a great way to measure success and know that we're doing what we're supposed to for our students.
How would you say you came up with this like understanding of success?
I think it's changed throughout my career, and even what I thought success would be at the high school level when I was getting ready to graduate. I think that, you know, my definition of success and the framework that kind of shaped that has come from how many people get theirs, and that's my family, faith, if that's what you're involved in as well within the church and what you believe, valuing people and knowing that everybody matters, and that we're not all gonna get along and see eye to eye, but at the same time knowing that that doesn't mean that I shouldn't help you be successful or do what I can when that opportunity presents itself. So I think definitely the environment that you're brought up in, definitely some of that resilience that is built into people, and then I think experience, just you get to see different perspectives, you see different types of education, you see different type of people that are being successful, and you blend all that together, and it kind of creates your view of what success means.
Yeah. What role would you like to play in making schools places in which all children are successful?
I think, people ask me all the time if I would ever go back to the public school district if the job presented itself, and I say no. I love what I'm doing. I love the fact that I have such a widespread range of students from every social economic status, every lifestyle, every corner of Ohio, every family background, and I think that I know I love what I do. I love that I get to not only impact students, but in leadership at the school district, I get to impact teachers' lives and staff lives, academically and career-wise, and other. And so I think that the role that I want to play is just that leadership role. I want to do anything that I can do from a servant aspect to take something that is difficult off their plate, to remove a barrier. If I need to talk to a difficult family because that teacher can't handle it at that point, those are the things I want to do to contribute.
Yeah. And then the last question is, how does your understanding of success compare to the way that the state understands success?
Very different. I think that, it's the state would prefer to measure, whether they would say so or not. They might verbally say different, but actions would continue to show that it's all about the metrics. It's all about the numbers. It's all about who graduates from your school, what percentage go on to college. It's very academic driven, and it's very narrow in what would be perceived successful, and that's what the actions and the state report cards and all of that continue to show. Now, as a school leader, that's what you're held to, that's what you drive, that's what your board of education asks about, that's what keeps your school open, that's what gets your school funding. So you are going to have to pay attention to those, and you're going to have to drive those, but I think you also, as a school leader, have to help everybody else see that there are different definitions of success, and we are growing students. We may not have grown that student to meet that metric, but that student definitely grew that year, and there was probably 47 different variables as to why they didn't grow and meet the metric that the state set, but that they are growing and moving forward. And I think we have to rely a lot on parents for that too. There's so many parents that'll say, oh, my student didn't score proficient, but they had an amazing school year and they learned this and I saw this. And so, there's there's definitely, I think the state would try to say that they're moving away from that, but all the actions continue to say that it's measured just by those very narrow academic data points.
Yeah. Well, that's everything that I have for you.
All right. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Did I do okay?
Yeah, you did great.